Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we've got a first impression, early impression on a very expensive Spirit of Dubai fragrance called Fakhama. And we also have an unboxing, which look what they filled the box with. It's like spaghetti wrap or something. Let's try to open this bad boy without actually spilling this stuff everywhere. Okay, we've got a double up here today, and I wanted to share this with you guys because this fragrance is turning into a serious unicorn. And so when in doubt, buy two, and that's what I did. It wasn't necessarily cheap, but I'm glad I did it. I've got maybe 1 or 2 more parcels on the way, and then I will probably be, not that you've never heard this before, but I'll probably be done buying for a little bit, mostly because I'm going to be out and about and doing things. Got to travel a bit for work, and so this weekend, maybe even Monday, could be one of the last videos I post for about a week. And so hopefully I'll get the other packages in as well so I can, you know, do unboxing videos and talk about them and stuff like that. But today's unboxing is a very rare, hard-to-find unicorn from the house of Aigner, and it's called Super Fragrance. And yes, we got 2. Super Fragrance for Men. And Super Fragrance for Men came out in the 1980s. It came out in, I guess I should be ready for these videos. Actually, I lied. 1978 is when it came out. And it is a spicy, woody kind of scent. So this is the packaging, by the way. And these little, you can see the old style address from Aigner. And here is the fragrance. So these are little 15 mils. Whoa! What are you doing in there, buddy? Okay, let's get you out. There you have it. There's the little 15 mil bottles. Lieb Parfuma in Hanover. So, Super Fragrance. Okay, it is a splash, not a spray. I'm glad I didn't tip that over. These are splashes. So I'm gonna have to decant these bad boys. Luckily they have stoppers, actually. There's a stopper that they put in there so the fragrance doesn't spill in transit. And I guess so it doesn't evaporate. Very nice. Well, I will get to decanting these very soon, probably tonight, but the breakdown on this is bergamot, tarragon, galbanum, clary sage, and lemon in the top with iris, jasmine, patchouli, sandalwood, cedarwood, and then a base of amber, costus, musk, tonka, and vanilla. And so what is Super Fragrance supposed to be like? Let's see what Fragrantica has to say, because I haven't had a chance to try this yet. This is a blind buy. You know, one of my usual hard-to-find fragrances that I stumbled across that were on the buy list that I just pulled the trigger on. So, it is supposedly compared to a couple very famous perfumes. One is actually, it is not compared to any famous perfumes. I thought I saw a couple comparisons on here. Fragrantica says there's also hay listed in the note breakdown. So yes, I'll be excited to try this. This is one of these, you know, long-lost unicorns, hard-to-find fragrances, stuff like that. So I'm glad I got 2 of the 15 mils. I'm glad that I was able to hunt down 2. So there you have it. There's a little quick unboxing. The next unboxing should be a little bit more fun than just one fragrance, but this way you kind of know what I'm going for. So let's talk about the Spirit of Dubai discovery set that I've been kind of working through slowly but surely. And the one we're going to talk about today is called Fakhama. And let's read the scroll, because these actually open up as a scroll. I'm going to spray some more on while we read the scroll, shall we? Let's get the top notes again. This actually is a good perfume. I do like this. I'll tell you that right out of the gate. This is a good fragrance. I like it. I enjoy it. And I'll give you kind of the way that it makes me feel in my first impression here. If I can open the scroll, because I want to read you the breakdown first. So, Spirit of Dubai, Fakhama. Come on, scroll. Aha, here we go. Okay. Fancy. So, let's read the story, shall we? Rapturous and revitalized, it was time to continue on our journey of discovery. The search for the treasured land resumed until I saw the glint in her eyes. This was symbolic, that we had indeed struck gold. Her bedazzled beauty captivated all senses. The radiance of luxury was almost blinding. The Spirit of Dubai is opulence. She is luxury personified, adorned by the brightest jewels and cloaked in the richest sillage. Seated at the throne, she waved her magic wand in the air. She waved her magic wand, and the air was instantly filled with the scent of grandeur and magnificence. She was the pulse of this fascinating destination, the city of Dubai. Enchanted, mesmerized by Dubai, Fakhama, this ultimate spirit of luxury, she was undeniably the spirit of Dubai. Okay, she's the spirit of Dubai. We get it. Fakhama is hints of rose, one of the most beautiful and praised flowers valued for centuries, and rich vanilla, an aphrodisiac which leads a gourmand aroma. They are fused with oud known as liquid gold, which is one of the most expensive ingredients, revealing the scent of pure affluence. Even words cannot fully describe a scent so powerful. I can't say I'm the biggest fans of their write-ups. It's just like they just pick some buzzwords, you know. They pick some key words: gold, opulence, luxury, jewels, and sillage, and magnificence, and just kind of created a story around all that. But the fragrance here is good. It's probably one of, shockingly, which I thought the leather one would be my favorite. I didn't care for the leather one as much as I thought I would. And I did an entire playlist where if you want to go see my first impressions or talking about the different brands, you can go click on Spirit of Dubai, you can click on Roja, you know, that kind of thing. Arise Ladore, if you want to, you know, see the reviews or the first impressions of each individual brand. So you'll notice that the oud that I originally started when I began my breakdown of this brand, I started with the oud because I wanted to understand what was at the center of these fragrances. But then I didn't get the same oud feeling when I tried the leather one. It felt like it was like a cheaper, you know, substitute. Like they weren't using the same high quality oud that I smelled in the actual oud fragrance. This one is back up a step in price again. And I can't say that I feel like the ingredients here are cheap, because they don't smell cheap. They smell expensive. And for $715 for 100 ml, they better smell expensive. That's a lot of money to pay for a rose fragrance. And luckily, I was blessed by my good friend Russian Adam, who sent me many different ingredients, individual ingredients, and so I can smell things like Iran rose, rose absolute, stuff like that, and you can really get a feel for what the actual ingredients themselves smell like. And here you get multiple types of roses mixed together. So there is Turkish rose and Bulgarian rose. And that's the star of the show. This is a rose-based fragrance. And it is a beautiful rose-based fragrance, and I'll tell you how it starts, because what they've done, so in the little scroll here, they did mention one key word which is important to understanding this scent, and that's gourmand. So there is a little bit of a gourmand facet, if you will, because in the notes breakdown, there's a couple elements in the top which are very important to the way the fragrance begins, and those two elements are coffee and fruit. All right, and so what happens when you first spray is Fakhama leans very heavily into that coffee, that almost like you're smelling a fresh coffee, but with milk infused, right? So you get like this, almost like this sweet milk coffee drink, right? And you are also sitting at breakfast, and you're sitting at the table, and on that table are multiple different types of roses. So when you sit down to breakfast, you have your coffee, right? The coffee is, the thing that's right in front of you and the thing that you're paying most attention to, but in the background, you see the beautiful roses on the table. You see the fruit that's sitting on the table to cleanse your palate after your meal, that kind of thing, right? That's the vibe that this fragrance begins with, almost like you're sitting down to a breakfast table, in my opinion. And it's mixed with spicy elements, like, for example, you get some cardamom, you also will instantly get the elemi, and most importantly is you get this candied-like feel, okay? And the candied aspects of the fruit mixes with the candied aspects of the rose. So imagine that, the best way that I can explain this candied aspect is if you've ever had creme brulee, right? The creme brulee is, has the sugar on top and the creme brulee underneath, right? And they will usually take some sort of a blowtorch or something and caramelize that sugar on top. And imagine if they caramelized the sugar from the creme brulee and then just removed it, like surgically, just took a X-Acto knife, removed that sugar off of the top of the creme brulee, and then began placing the sugar onto the different ingredients on the table. So the coffee gets a creme brulee-like sugared, caramelized over the drink. The rose, the petals, you cover them with this candied-like sugar feel. The fruit, same thing, gets that candied sugar feel. So you can still smell the oranges. You can smell this, fruity blend underneath, but you're getting the almost like if you just mashed it all together after you put that creme brulee caramelized sugar on top of the rose petal, you also mashed it together. So you get this jammy rose, but you also get this waxy, candied-like rose aspect. And there is a little bit of sweetness here. And the sweetness is probably coming from those oriental facets. So if you stick with this is not an easy one to explain, by the way, but if you stick with the whole you're sitting at a breakfast table story that I just created here on the fly, imagine you're wearing an oriental fragrance yourself. You're wearing a fragrance that's heavy in benzoin and vanilla and patchouli and stuff like that, but it's also mixing with the sense of the breakfast table, like I had mentioned. And so you're getting a little bit of the fragrance you're wearing. You're also getting some of the coffee, some of the rose, but that candied aspect is, that candied fruit slash candied rose aspect is mixing with your own fragrance, and it's turning it into something unique. Now, if you know my taste, you know that I am not the biggest fan of sweet fragrances. And normally I have a big problem with them. This one, however, even though it's kind of like a gourmand rose fragrance, if you will. It's like a gourmand rose oud is the way to describe it, because you're not just wearing an oriental fragrance from the old times. You're not just wearing like a Guerlain oriental. Let's say, sticking with the example of being at the breakfast table, you're wearing a modern Middle Eastern oriental fragrance that has some of those synthetic Middle Eastern accords or, materials, let's say. Middle Eastern houses have this very specific DNA that you could almost smell from a mile away. Even the ones that are done by French houses, you can smell this Middle Eastern style. Like if you go back in my reviews and you watch my review of Roja's the exclusive parfum, I said that easily could have been in one of his Middle Eastern bottles because it had the same, the same materials. You can almost pick them out. Once you know what they smell like, you can pick them out almost at will. Overly synthetic Middle Eastern Cypriol and stuff like that. The heavy elemi and frankincense and cypriol that these houses use to try to portray a Middle Eastern fragrance. And the spirit of Dubai, obviously Nabil is trying to take advantage of Dubai's rise, Dubai's prominence, all this money that all of a sudden flew into Dubai. And so they're taking advantage of the fact that someone can drop $750 on something like this and not bat an eye. And while I think I like the oud a little bit more, as a rose fragrance, I actually like what this does, even though it is sweet. And the reason I like it is because they did a little bit of a smart thing. They pulled a little bit of a fast one in the way that this fragrance was constructed, the composition of the fragrance, if you will. And what they did is, once that sweetness starts to come up, because at first you're really smelling maybe a little bit of the oud, who knows if it's real or not. I don't know if this brand claims to use real oud or not. The actual oud fragrance that I smelled from them, I think very well could have real oud. But these last two that are more compositions that have oud inside of them, I can't remember what the other one that I sampled was. The leather one. Let's see if I can just tell you real quick. So the leather one was... Let's see. The leather one was Meydan, Meydan, and it came in the green packaging. And this is the one that I really thought I was going to like because I'm a huge leather lover. But for whatever reason, there were a couple things that just didn't do it for me. It was a little too synthetic, too much of that Middle Eastern synthetics. The actual oud itself, on the other hand, though, I really liked. I like this one. But if you own something like the Night, or if you own some of the Arige Ladore fragrances, or if you own some of the Bortnikovs, you may not want to spend $1,100 on a bottle of the oud. This oud smells, it smells natural, like they're using real oud, kind of like, Frederic Mall's The Night is using real oud. But you don't get that natural oud smell in these other compositions. You don't get it in Meydan. You don't get the natural oud in Fakhama, although what they did what I think was brilliant about this fragrance, what they did that makes this a like for me, although I would not buy a full bottle at $715. Absolutely not. Especially when I have so many other rose fragrances that I love. Azzaro, Actor, Aramis 900, Lyric Man, and I have samples of Lyric Woman. And then, of course, one of my favorite rose fragrances of all time is Rose de Taff, the Extrait by Paris Monte Carlo. So because of all of these other fragrances, I wouldn't go spend the kind of money that Spirit of Dubai is asking for. But I like what they did. And what they did is as soon as that sweetness starts to come up, once your nose starts to adapt to the fact that, okay, you're smelling a bit of a gourmand, you're smelling the candied aspects of the coffee and fruit, and I mentioned the candied rose that starts to come up from the surface. Once that sweetness really starts to come up from the vanilla and stuff like that, the saffron, the benzoin, resinoid, stuff like that, excuse me, that's when they begin. So as soon as the sweetness starts to come up, the animalics start to come up, okay? And so that's the offsetting factor in my mind that keeps this fragrance alike and very wearable for me, because normally I would smell that caramelized sugar. I would smell the sweet notes coming off of the oriental sweetness, that syntheticness I was talking about earlier in Middle Eastern fragrances. I would smell that synthetic and I would go, this is not for me. But the animalics, whatever they're using here, civetone, civetta, who knows what it is. I don't think it's real civet. It mixes with the oak moss and the castoreum and the leather in the base, the mosses and the leather. And it's a beautiful, it is a beautiful offset. It's a beautiful contrast to the rose that you're smelling. So you get the beautiful rose, and there is some lovely rose notes here. And like I said, there's a lot of different individual rose oils that I have got to smell thanks to Russian Adam, that, excuse me, still fighting this cold, that you realize, it's much easier to pick out the individual rose types in a composition. And here you really get that candied, jammy rose, along with even some of those, I mentioned those waxy elements of Taif rose, which you mostly get in Taif rose. And even though it's not here, I think the candied aspects from the fruit and the coffee mix with the rose to make it seem like you're almost smelling 4 or 5 different types of roses, although it's mostly Turkish and Bulgarian rose. And that contrast is beautiful. I love it. I'm a big fan. They did a good job with this fragrance. And you guys know I have a high tolerance for animalic, so somebody else might smell this and go, ooh, it's too animalic for me. But if you like animalic fragrances, if you're a fan of the civet, castoreum, leather, oak moss, those kind of fragrances, and then the twist, the thing that really sets it off, that really makes it the composition that it is there's this beautiful wisp of incense that kicks up. So if you're sitting at the table still and it is, it's breakfast time, and I mentioned all the things that I mentioned, in the back of the restaurant, you can smell the smoke from the guy using the blowtorch on the caramelized sugar or whatever it is, you can smell this beautiful wisp of Middle Eastern incense in the base. And I think it would be a little bit boring without that wisp of incense, because even though it's not super prominent, it's not like you're smelling an out-and-out incense fragrance. It's not like you're smelling Avignon or something like that. It's all balanced beautifully. And that's what I like about this fragrance. I really enjoy the balance, even though I have to kind of put up with some of the sweetness. it's done so well. I love the floral touches. I love the oriental touches. You know, I love the incense touch that you get later on in the dry down. And I love the animalic touches. And so this fragrance gives me a lot. And that's what I like about it so far. Again, just with where I'm at in my journey, I don't think I would spend $715 on 100 mil. It's not worth it or economically viable for me with all these bottles that I have, right? But if you're in a different place and you don't have a proper rose fragrance, this is completely unisex, by the way. I think this would smell amazing on a woman. I think it would smell stunning on a man. Some men don't have the confidence, or they don't, you know, they immediately smell rose and think that's feminine, and I disagree. You know, I think rose smells fantastic on a guy, because, you know, most men, in the West anyways, in America, they smell rose and they think rose equals feminine. But in the Middle East, that's actually one of the features that they are a little bit more progressive than us, in that they don't really see gender in perfume. And so many men wear rose ouds, many women wear rose ouds. And so while this is a rose oud, it's a rose oud with a lot more going on. You know, you get much more than just a basic rose oud here. And I like that. I'm a fan. I'm enjoying this, you know. It's a good fragrance. It's a little different than what I expected, and it caught me off guard. 2016 is when this came out. But I like it. I'm a fan. This is a winner. So, funny enough, if you go to Parfumo and type in this fragrance, Fakhama, the #1 fragrance it's compared to is a Rouge à Dove. And if you remember during my the exclusive parfum breakdown, I mentioned that that fragrance could easily be in a Spirit of Dubai bottle and you wouldn't miss a beat. I'm starting to think there were some in 2014 to 2018, 2019, there was some serious borrowing between the big brands, you know. There were some serious, you know, maybe the big oil houses, Robertet or whoever it is, Givaudan, maybe they were using the same oils with Spirit of Dubai and Roja fragrances, or who knows how it all worked out. But it definitely seems like there were some, you know, there were some mixing of either the perfumers that were working on these fragrances or the oils. You know, it smells that way to my nose. Like if you said this is a Rouge à Dove Middle Eastern exclusive fragrance or something, it would fit perfect. I mean, it could go back and forth. I feel like both brands were trying to do the same thing 5, 6, 7 years ago. And sometimes they succeeded. Sometimes I feel like they failed miserably. Fakhama, or Fakhama, for me, is one of the successes. Interesting fragrance. But if you don't like those heavy Middle Eastern synthetics, that's really going to put you off. You've got to come around to that style to enjoy this. So before I cough in your faces all video, I'm going to go ahead and end it here and say thank you for watching the unboxing. If you have any experience with super fragrance for men, do let me know. I'm very excited to have these because they are unicorns. And if you have experience with Spirit of Dubai Fakhama, I keep wanting to say Fakhama, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are. Or even if you just have experience with the brand, you know, let me know. So, cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. And I will hopefully see you tomorrow with another video. Bye-bye.